Welcome to the Cleary Minds podcast. I'm your host, Tom Egan. Here, the classroom meets the real world, and we talk with leaders and changemakers. Let's get into it. Carrie, if you want to introduce yourself.
Carrie Barber, CEO of Dawn Food Products.
And just maybe a sentence about what Dawn Food does.
Dawn Food Products is a 105-year-old company, 70 years as a Jones family-owned company. We manufacture and distribute amazing bakery products for the baking industry.
Yeah, and your partner for business success. I loved that because it's also kind of woven into your mission, vision, and values. But before we dive into all that, what is it that you love doing most right now in your role?
Anytime I can do one of a couple of things. Number one, help our team members to grow, to be successful in their careers, to spend time with our teams out in the field, talking to our customers.
And I love that at some point, as in your distribution past, you realized that you needed to talk to the customers directly instead of leaving it up to somebody else. And what led to that choice?
That was actually a choice by my dad and my uncles because we were selling to our customers through independent distributors, but we weren't actually having the final conversation with our customers. We didn't know what their challenges were. We didn't know how we could best help them. So they decided that in order to be able to do that, we needed to have our own distribution, our own wheels to market, so that we could have that final conversation with our customers. We understood our customers, and we could provide them the very best tools and opportunities for them to be successful.
Yeah, it seemed super smart, and I love that, your question to your customers and speaking direct to them was like, how can we help you be successful, right?
Exactly.
If we're your partner for business success, then what can we do for you? And I always love that about sales. Rather than jumping into here's what our product can do for you, you ask them, what can we do for you? What help do you need? So, and I loved seeing that it moved into your mission, it moved into your vision and your values. You talked about a circle of excellence, and maybe you could talk a little bit about what circle of excellence is.
Sure. It's a concept that my dad and my uncles came up with probably 25, 30 years ago, but it's a circle. And at the top of the circle is our team members. And our team members are everything for our organization. It's what sets us apart. So our people are at the top. And it's also about our team members, how we work with each other, how we collaborate, and how we work together to make the very best products. And we are unique in high quality products, indulgent products for our customers. And for our customers, it's about what we can do for them to help them to be most successful, whether it's marketing ideas, new branding opportunities, brand new products to market, or just help them be creative at their very best.
Yeah, I love that word indulgent. It just, it has quality written right into it. And clearly for our students, you could see that in your presentation and all the pictures was people first. Everybody looks like they're collaborative, working together, proud of what they're doing. You had, passion, optimism in your values, but you also had, progress, moving it forward, growing. And it sounds like you had a constant eye for looking at how we could be better and, growing your company, which clearly came through. And I asked in class, how do you keep that relevant and alive all the time?
Well, a couple of different ways. Like I said, we are really proud of our team members. We feel like we have the best team members anywhere. And when we think about progress, it's progress throughout the organization. So it might be progress in creating new marketing materials for our customers, making it the very best Halloween campaign we've ever done. It could be through our e-commerce and promoting couponing through our e-commerce platform. It could be our finance teams finding the very best pricing through our manufacturing capabilities, continuing to improve and get better all the time.
Yeah, and I love that from the top down in terms of culture, bringing, some reference to culture into every meeting. And even when you're walking, doing tours or showing customers around, constantly combing the interactions and the people that you're working with for that culture. Maybe you could talk a little bit about what you do at your meetings.
So we do have a unique culture. We believe it's a competitive advantage, and it's something you have to live and breathe, walk the talk every single day. And there's a lot of different ways in which we do that. One of the ways is in every meeting that we have, we ask the organization in that meeting to talk about our vision or to talk about our mission, but to take something in our unique culture and bring it to life every single day. How did you see someone inspiring bakery success last week? Or did you see someone really going over and above to develop a relationship or to be supportive of someone as they were trying to make progress? So talking about it, making sure that it's a living, breathing component. Our culture doesn't just sit on a shelf. It is a part of what we do every single day, and we like to catch people living our culture as well.
I love that, catch people living your culture. I mean, and it's obvious in your presentation, the way you talk, the way what you see, the pictures, everything. And I also love that you keep it alive on every day. You know, it's something you work towards. Because one of the students asked you about, you know, competitors and copycats, and you were like, people try, but it never lasts. It doesn't stick. Which is also testimonial to, you know, your culture and working at it. So I'm glad it's standing apart. Yeah, something else that was interesting about you early on growing up in a family where your dad was running the business, you got to kind of interact and grow up with it, but you learned at 12 years old what it was your dad did, which informed you for the rest of your career. Maybe you could tell that story.
So one of the good things, I think, about being a part of a family-owned company is you do get to see bits and pieces of it. They might not all come together all at once, but you get to travel, and as you're traveling, you're stopping and seeing bakeries. You are visiting, and your dad is a part of a international show, and you get to see a little bit about what that's like. As people come to headquarters, which is where we lived, you got to know them. Salespeople on the road would come and have dinner at your house, so you learned a lot about the organization, but also about the people. And when I was 12 years old, every once in a while, the phone would ring in the middle of the night, because that's when bakers work, is in the middle of the night. And in this particular situation, I knew the gentleman. He said, "Hey, Carrie," just forgot his name. I'll make it up. "Hey, Carrie, it's George. I got a problem, and I really need to talk to your dad." And the next day I woke up and I went, I want to do what my dad does. He helps people solve their problems. And that was it. I didn't know my dad was president of Dawn Food Products. I saw he was helping people, and I said, that's what I want to do.
I mean, it gives me goosebumps when something, especially you wake up in the morning and it's like so clear. It's almost like a vision quest. It dropped in for informing how you operated. Yeah, and then, you know, family business, your family obviously like, oh, we've got a star daughter here, we want her to take over, and you're like, no, I'm gonna go, you know, I gotta be successful on my own. And I was curious about that choice, like what had you decide that, make that move on your own?
You know, I don't think I can recollect, other than it was ingrained in me, and I think it was a little bit of fear. That I never wanted to look back on my career and say, is the only reason I am at this particular point in my career, whatever it was, just because of my last name? And
Yeah.
I said, you've got to build that confidence within yourself to say, even if I'm not at Dawn, I can do something else on my own, and I can be good at it, and I can be great.
Yeah.
And that gave me the confidence that whatever I was going to be tackling at Dawn, I knew I had it within me to be successful.
Right. Yeah, I love that. And then obviously you tackled medical sales in a way that grew the business, and you discovered the secret to your success was really knowing the products and inside and out, so that you could help your customer in ways nobody else could, which then informed you and the baking side of business. And I loved what you said, flipping back on what you learned about your dad and solving problems. I love what you said. At some point you realized, I am actually good at solving problems. I love that. It's like a full circle moment. at the same time, you said it was important to understand what you're good at and then, find the right people to fill in the roles that you may not be so good at. And again, back to the people first, maybe you could talk about that initiative or how you learned that or where that came to be.
A couple of different ways. The first light that came into my memory about how to lead through people and with people was the old adage that says, you understand what your strengths are, that's really important, but also understand what your weaknesses are, and then make sure you are bringing in team members that can teach you how to improve your strengths, and so your weaknesses can become your strengths. And I thought about that and I said, I can't do everything. That's not even possible. So I just flipped it in my head to say, I do know what my strengths are. I am going to bring in people to surround myself where I have a weakness. I have to trust those people, but I can make sure that we form a great and a very strong team, but I'm not going to be the center of everything. When I need a great finance person, that's not me.
Right.
I will surround myself with great people that I can collaborate with and trust, and build the whole team around everybody's strengths.
And then again, it's back to people and products and customers, right? You just cascade right back into mission, vision, values. I thought that was brilliant. And, some people are afraid to bring in folks that are smarter than them for fear of what could happen, but it's so important to get like the best and brightest in the room.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And then I loved what you said. A student asked you, how did you get through COVID or what did you learn? And you said, I learned that we were agile because we talked to the people, we included the people, and we responded when we had to. And, being agile, especially these days, is the single most important thing your company can be.
Absolutely.
So that was a great discovery. I love that. Your overarching suggestion to students just starting out was to have a goal. Maybe you could talk about that.
In any part of your life, I think having a goal, whether it's a goal to learn to speak Spanish, whether it's a goal to take Pilates and try to do Pilates 5 times a day, but also in business, in particular in business, setting a goal, understanding what it is that's important to you, and it might be in the next 1 year, it might be in the next 3 years, it might be an ultimate goal of what do I want to achieve, because that provides you the pathway, that keeps you between the lines and understanding, I'm not going to do that because that doesn't align with what my goal is long term, and that really helps you make sure that you're achieving the things that are required for you to ultimately reach that goal.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean the goal doesn't change either, because over time, life is not static. And so what you had as a goal when you were 21 might be different when you're 41, and that's okay. It's okay to change your goal, but always know what the next goals are.
Nice. And then you also said share those goals with your manager or your boss.
I gave a presentation about 1.5 years ago, and I said, how many of you here have shared with your boss what your next step is? Less than 1/3 of the people raised their hand.
Wow.
And I basically said, we don't have ESP.
Yeah.
You need to tell us, and then we can help you achieve that. But if we don't know, we're not going to be as big a help as that we could.
Great words of wisdom. Yes. Yeah, a lot of assumptions being made. Don't leave it up to assumptions. And this idea about not necessarily growing vertically, but having to do some horizontal things. You said not every job you get to do you'll love, but it can certainly lead to the job you do.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Which, if you're in a job that you don't like, you had some words of wisdom for that person that asked you about that as well.
Yeah, because along the road, if you know what your goal is, it's not always going to be vertical. You're going to have to recognize there's some side roads that I'm going to need to understand what the capabilities are for me to be able to be best in that next role.
Yeah.
And some of those jobs are going to be things that you're not going to really like, but you're going to do it for a year, 2 years, 3 years.
Yeah.
But you have the opportunity every morning to say, there's something in this job that I like. Go figure it out. And every day say, yep, I'm doing this because I love this particular aspect, as opposed to focusing on the negative. There's something in that job you can find that you like.
I love that. Yep. Love something every day about what you do. Yeah, find that something. I've even seen recently people are taking pictures. They're like, what is it about today that's the gift? And trying to take a picture of it or memorialize it and then review it, share it with your partner at the end of the day kind of thing. Um, yeah. So what I also thought was neat about your presentation is you talked about company culture, but then for you personally, you loved travel and other cultures. And what is it that lights you up about that?
So when I was president international, that's when I really learned that people from different backgrounds, different cultures, different geographies of the world, they solve problems differently. They find humor in different things. And by bringing all of those different skill sets with those different backgrounds to the table, you can have a much richer way of solving problems. And not only that, it's a lot of fun. So understanding other cultures, traveling, seeing people where they live, enjoying their food is just an enriching way of life.
Yeah, you used the word so rich, and I'm just hearing now you even mentioned the humor is different, right? So what people find funny and how they're looking at things. Yeah, that was great. Um, yeah, of course, the old all students ask, what about work-life balance? And your wisdom on kind of your life was great. Maybe you could introduce that here.
So I was lucky enough to attend a seminar at another university, and someone stood up and said, I don't want you to think about work-life balance any longer because it just doesn't exist. And that was quite a statement. And then they went on to explain and have you think about whatever is in real balance in your life at any time, almost nothing, right? But what we learn to do is juggle. We need to be where we need to be, when we need to be there, and if we're not 100% there, the other party probably knows we're not 100% there, because if we're at the office and you want to be at Samantha's soccer game and you're thinking about it, your other team members probably know you're not 100% in the moment. And the same thing in the family. So be where you need to be there, be intentional, and then everything else just works out, because if you're working for the right company, they'll say, hey, that's great, go do that. Don't feel guilty about it when you come back. If you're getting the work done, that's all that matters. And then the family says, my mom got to come to my soccer game. How cool is that?
Yeah. Yeah, so I think the first sort of leap in consciousness was forget the balance part, let's just focus on being 100% wherever it is you are. Like that's the important part, be in the present moment. But the second piece too was you really work at helping each other do that by asking, are you able to be here, or are you okay? And I really like the story you told about the one of your reports kind of walking away and you tracked them down.
Yeah, we talk about as one of our values relationships, and recognizing your teams and knowing when they may be having a hard time because you are paying attention to them. It is so meaningful, and it is also sometimes critical. So we came up with this thing at Dawn, and we just have the opportunity to say, if you think something's off, hey, you okay? And everybody knows that's a signal to say, I need to talk, or no, everything's good.
You can pass. But the freedom to share is also important. I liked this idea of stepping out of your comfort zone. I see a lot of research on social media, like the faster you get something, the less satisfied you are in the end. And, and then the more you get of that, the even less satisfied you are over time. So you talked about, doing things that kind of put you out of your comfort zone a little bit. If you aren't a little bit nervous, then something's not quite right.
You're not stretching.
You're not stretching enough. Yeah, that was your suggestion to the students. Maybe you could tell a story about that.
So I was on the phone a couple days ago with a gentleman who was going to be taking another step in his career. And he said, I have to say, I'm a little nervous about this. And I said, that's fine, because if you're not stretching enough and you're not growing. So everybody's going to be nervous when they take those right next steps in their growth path. Interesting.
It's almost like the nervousness lets you know it's a right next step.
Exactly right.
That's interesting. Okay. We'll keep evolving that one. That one's good. Yeah, and I really wanted to do this because there was just so much, when I meet with you and I hear the story, like other people need to hear it. So bringing it into the class is great. Doing this is great because it's going to go out to the larger business community associated with Cleary. But out of all the things that you've shared today and what we've talked about now, is there any other thing that you think is important that we know about you or that you'd want to share with our students and business community that maybe we haven't talked about or mentioned yet?
I think the other thing, and they go to hand in hand, and that's mentoring and networking. It's necessary at different points in people's careers or even in their student life to have a mentor, to have someone that they can go to say, I'm not really quite sure about this. Can you help me? And to know that they can rely on that person to get really good advice, that they trust that person. That's really important as you go through life. And then from a networking perspective, also having or being a part of a group of people that you can ask a question anytime outside of your family, outside of your work, that is a trusting, confidential group of people that you can go to at any time. And whatever the issue is, those people have your back and they're going to do whatever they can, just as we would do for them if they asked us that question. And those organizations that you can create are really vital to, I think, long-term mental as well as physical health. Also
great advice, because that's another thing that comes through, just the collection of people that you've connected to and how your business grew from, a small little family business to mixes to now, over $2 billion global operation that you run. So congratulations. And so relevant and on brand and, your partner for business success. So thanks for being that for our students. Thanks for the baked goods.
We're passionate and we love what we do.
And our student ambassadors will also thank you in advance for that as well. So
happy to make people smile.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right.